Hi, in this video I want to discuss the subject of like a stretch. When you think about a stretch or relieving tension, I guess this is a comparison video, using one of the most primary examples of relief you can possibly use, stretching. When you stretch, you're relieving something. It's satisfying. Sort of like, you relieve your sexual desires, you're stretching around, you're doing all sorts of things. It's kind of dark, but you can still see my stretching, right? You're stretching, you're feeling good, but also you're just relieving a tension. You can kind of see it's one of those confusing feelings you have. Um, Obviously, this should be a short video, but when you stretch, uh, you feel you feel good, but you get that momentary feeling of satisfaction when you stretch to avoid what? You avoid to go through all that tension. A tension that sometimes you don't really realize you're going through. It's sort of like you just automatically stretch when, say, you yawn. You stretch, it's one of those automatic things, and you realize all the tension you're going through. Sort of like it's confusing to notice the tension you're going through when, say, you're experiencing sexual desire. You don't realize just how much tension you're going through, and you don't realize just how much of a deprivation it is because you're in the moment and you're feeling like, oh, I want to satisfy this, I want to satisfy this. You're not thinking, this is a deprivation, this is a deprivation. You're satisfying the deprivation by satisfying your sexual desires, sort of like you're satisfying a stretch. You're satisfying all that tension you had, say, from being stiff and still for, say, 8 hours in your sleep or whatever it is, to use an example. And all that stiffness you had that was building up in you all that time. And usually it took a long time just to get a momentary stretch for 15 seconds. Getting that nice stretch in, it doesn't mean much of anything. It's satisfying, but it's a stretch that lasts a short period of time just to, in reaction to all the tension you had to go through. So you're avoiding a negative, and you're avoiding a negative or you're getting out of a negative based on a very momentary experience of pleasure and satisfaction that isn't really necessarily satisfying in the most correct way you can possibly think of it. It's still it's not really satisfaction in the end, right? You're just getting out of a negative. That's really all you're doing. You're just getting out of a negative. And if that's all you're doing, you're not really satisfying anything. You're just satisfying the negative that you're getting out of. There's no in and of itself. Even if you were satisfying, like I mentioned, the universal thing, the universe needed us. It's still a need. If it's a need, if a universe needed us, if we don't satisfy the universe, it'd be unhappy. Therefore, what's the point? A greater obligation. So we're just going to be sacrificed as lamb. We're going to be, cannon fodder. We're going to be lambs to the slaughter just for the universe. That means our obligation's even greater now. No, if it's a need, then there's no need. There's no need for the need to begin with, but if there's a need, that means that this game is predicated on a negative first, or a need first, to get out of a negative, and the need is based on a need to escape a negative. So that's where the need is based on to begin with. And to avoid the negative for the universe, or whatever, would still be a need. So it's about having a good that isn't needed to begin with. It's about having some kind of good that's not needed, but somehow when you have it, you still need it, which is not even real. Even if you got, say, a present for your birthday, you didn't realize you wanted it, but you still satisfied something. It's about satisfying something that's not a negative. If it's satisfying something that isn't a negative, if it's satisfying something that exists, that's not already based on some kind of negative in you, that thing just happened to have filled up. It doesn't matter that you didn't know it was the thing that was going to fill it up. It just happened to fill it up. If it's not, it has to be a positive or some kind of need thing that's not filling up something else. And everything is just in reaction to filling up something that we've experienced before. So the most extreme example is satisfying your sexual desire. In a stretch, it comes from all that tension you experience, sort of like the sexual gratification. It's based on all that tension of building it up over that period of time. It's about going through all those periods. If you don't even want to look at it that way, it's about not only the period of time, but all that time you could have been having an orgasm instead of saying just not going through it. You have to build it up, and the more you build it up, you get a little more satisfaction, but it's just a little more over the time you have to build up, and, oh yeah, this is getting obnoxious, I want to get rid of this now. Sometimes that's really where it goes. And it just takes a little more time. You have to reach that point where you realize, I just need to get rid of this. This is becoming really distracting. And you realize, even at that point, if you don't realize that it is a deprivation, the most extreme thing. Then there's really no way to convince you. Or getting hungry. It's more satisfying when you're extremely hungry, but you got to starve yourself. You got to be like, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. You got to go through that for a longer period of time before you satisfy your hunger. It's a little more satisfying, but you're going to eat, you're going to be full again. So it's one of those things where you got to go through a deprivation to begin with. It's about not going through the deprivation and yet getting some positive anyway. And if you get a surprise for your birthday and you didn't realize, okay, you're surprised, you got something, oh, I'm so satisfied. This must be a true positive. No, it's not a true positive, because generally speaking, surprises are because, oh, I've always wanted this, and now I got it. If it's always something you've wanted, or I don't need this, but it's still satisfying something in you, regardless of the fact you say you don't need this. It doesn't matter what you say. It just matters that if it has a positive effect on you, it's because it was filling up something that you didn't have before. It was filling up, okay, I didn't need this because I already have something else to do. Well, that something else to do it could have been good, but this thing is now better. You didn't need it, but now you got something better because the deprivation of you not experiencing what you could have been experiencing is now the positive that you're making for based on the negative that you didn't realize you were experiencing. Like in many cases, a lot of the deprivation we're experiencing is something we're caught up in and we don't realize. But it's still a deprivation. Sort of like you just live through the moment of, say you have some illness and you don't realize it. Or you have a sickness, you just go day by day. It doesn't mean it's not suffering, you're still experiencing it. You just don't realize it until you're getting out of it. And that's the thing, it's about getting out. You're relieving, and once you realize you're relieving and you're going right back to where you started once you've relieved it, that's when you realize it's not really doing anything but going back and forth. It's just going up and down and up and down. It's like a pendulum, an upside down pendulum. You're just going boom, a boom, a boom, a ball bouncing back and forth on a string on both sides. It's all it's doing, going up the hill and down the hill. That's all it's accomplishing. So you can see where that kind of breeds the pointlessness of the discussion when it usually talks about this kind of stuff. So it is like a stretch. Oh, yes, feels so good. Oh, I feel it in my throat. I feel it in my chest. Oh, yes, it feels so good. Nice little stretch. Stretching is so fun. I love the stretch. Oh, my feet. It's all very satisfying, but it's still just a stretch. A momentary feeling of satisfaction over this long period of deprivation you have to experience. So that's really all you're experiencing when you're experiencing any kind of satisfaction, because it's just going like this. It doesn't even matter if you didn't realize it. Even if you didn't realize the negative you were in, even if you didn't realize the surprise you needed wasn't something you needed, even if you didn't realize you were going through a more positive state, or avoiding a negative state that you were already experiencing. The fact that it's going back and forth, right when you get that, now it takes more not only to satisfy you, but you're going to go right back to where you were, and you can almost go to a greater fall, like a caffeine high. I'm higher now, but it takes more caffeine to get the same satisfaction the next time. So the happier you get, it's going to take you. You get used to that and used to that feeling of feeling good. And no longer that feeling feels good. You have to feel better to feel even better. So it's going to take you harder to feel better unless you feel like crap for a long time. And the fact that it just keeps doing this back and forth thing, okay, I feel better, but now I'm feeling worse. Because you're not going to feel better until you feel worse again. And like I said, oh yeah, you're gonna be horny again tomorrow. Yeah, you got rid of it today. You're gonna be hungry again tomorrow. Well, I'm also gonna be full again tomorrow after I eat again. Sort of like you can say you're just depressed. Well, you're just happy. Well, you know what? You're just gonna get horny again. You're just gonna get hungry again. You're not right now, but you will again tomorrow. Well, guess what? I'm also gonna be not horny again tomorrow. I'm also gonna be full again tomorrow. I'm also going to be in the same exact predicament. The same shit, just another day. That's what it really boils down to. So think of it like a stretch. Like a stretch, that's what life is like a stretch. Like a stretch, like a sexual gratification. But since some of us can't experience the sexual gratifications, I think a stretch is something we can all really experience and understand. Right there, my friends. Not really. Okay, not really my friends. I'm sure you understand, though. Obviously, you can understand with my own incoherent babble, right? and my voice drying up so much I can barely speak. My throat nearly paralyzing. Oh, well, anyway, I think that's all I need to say. I mean, I think I covered everything good enough. So if I have anything else to say on this subject, I'll mention it in some other video. But remember, like a stretch. Like sex. Like, like a stretch.